President Donald Trump's tariffs seem to be coming, President Trump will roll out the measures flanked by cabinet members in the Rose Garden of the White House at around 4 p.m. local time today. Not much is known about these tariffs, however. President Trump has merely said that he would be very kind, but has given away very little on what's at stake.
We are going to be very nice by comparison to what they were. The numbers will be lower than what they've been charging us, and in some cases maybe substantially lower, but we sort of have a world obligation perhaps. But we're going to be very nice. Relatively speaking, we're going to be very kind.
While Trump has insisted that he has decided on reciprocal tariffs hitting countries that have targeted the United States, the White House admitted that he was still ironing out the details. Trump has trailed the measure for weeks, initially suggesting that the tariffs would simply match whatever levies other countries impose. As the deadline drew near, U.S. media reported that he had also been considering blanket 20% tariffs. And then there was a third open under construction as well, or consideration, where some countries would get preferential treatments. The White House has kept silent, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying that she did not want to get ahead of the president.
Going to announce that decision tomorrow. I don't want to get ahead of the president. This is obviously a very big day. He's with his trade and tariff team right now, perfecting it to make sure this is a perfect deal for the American people and the American worker. And you will all find out in about 24 hours from now.
Major economies, including the European Union, have vowed retaliation. The European Union, which Trump has accused of trying to screw the U.S., said that it still hopes to negotiate a solution, but that all instruments are on the table to retaliate if necessary. The European Union will respond to the new tariffs before the end of April. This is according to the French government's spokesperson, saying that there will be two responses. The first will be taking place in mid-April in response to the tariffs already decided on steel and aluminum. She added that there will be detailed study sector by sector, and a European decision would be announced before the end of April in a coordinated, united, and strong way. However, the European Commission, which is in charge of EU trade policy, did not confirm the French government's comments, saying France doesn't speak on behalf of the European Union when it comes to trade policies. Meanwhile, other top exporters are seeking to build up alliances to counter Washington, with China, Japan, and South Korea speeding up talks on a free trade agreement. Trump has already raised duties on Chinese imports, as well as steel, aluminum, and some goods from Canada and Mexico. In case of additional tariffs, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that his government would be very deliberate in terms of the measures they take to fight for Canada. Mexico, on the other hand, has already lowered its 2025 growth forecast from between 2 to 3% to a range of 1.5% to 2.3%, citing tensions with the largest trade partner, that being the United States. But what do Americans think about these tariffs? How do they feel that they would be impacted? Well, a Fox News poll conducted said that 69% of respondents said tariffs on imports will make products they buy more expensive. 7% said tariffs will make products less expensive, while 17% said that there would be no difference in pricing. All right, for the latest, we are now being joined by Greg Swenson, economist and U.S. political analyst. He's joining us from London. Thank you so much for joining us on WION.
See you, Susan. Thanks.
All right, so there isn't much we know about these tariffs that President Trump is expected to roll out at the Rose Garden this afternoon. What are your thoughts on which option President Trump will ultimately take?
It's really difficult to say, Susan, at this point. He's indicated that he used the term nice. He's going to be nicer with these tariffs than what we expect from our European, specifically European trading partners. But I think he could probably say the same thing globally. So right now, the tariffs are typically much higher on American goods than they are from American tariffs on our trading partners' goods and services. So, at this point, it looks like he just wants to make the tariffs reciprocal. And that's the key word here. And you hear a lot of talk about it, Trump starting a trade war, but if the tariffs from other countries are higher than American tariffs, it doesn't really seem to be like a trade war. It's just reciprocal tariff or trade barriers.
Yeah, we often talk about CEOs and these businesses that are very concerned. As you know, Kevin O'Leary has been very vocal about saying that these tariffs aren't going to be as detrimental to the U.S. economy and possibly a recession as many make it sound. But do you think that it will open a new era of risk for global markets? And how will the U.S. market in particular be impacted ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think the markets just don't like uncertainty. And that's why I think the markets have sold off, in addition to the fact that they were pretty pricey anyway, and we're perhaps due for a correction. So I think you'll see the market settle down once there's some clarity. But I also think that the effect on the American economy is greatly exaggerated. And if you look at the tariffs, they could ultimately end up being a tax of something like $250 billion. But the tax reform and deregulation is worth at least $5 trillion, but probably more like $6 or $7 trillion. So between tax reform and the deregulatory process, which is really going to unleash the supply side, especially in the energy sector. So those are the things that I would look at more so than the effect from tariffs. I think this will be temporary, perhaps a one-time price adjustment on certain goods and services, whether it's end products or supplies in the supply chain or inputs. But I think ultimately, once that price one-time price adaptation is complete, it's not necessarily inflationary. But I do acknowledge that there could be some short-term disruptions.
Right. Well, thank you so much for that, Greg, and helping us really analyze this amidst all of this noise and frenzy. We'll be listening to President Trump, of course, in the Rose Garden this afternoon. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Great. Thanks, Susan.